The global geopolitical landscape is currently being reshaped by a high-stakes chess match centered on two maritime bottlenecks, the Strait of Hormuz and the Strait of Malacca. While the eyes of the world have been fixed on the Middle East, a new strategy is quietly forming in Southeast Asia that could fundamentally alter the balance of power. A maritime strait is essentially a geographical choke point where trade must pass through a narrow corridor. To put the scale into perspective, the Strait of Hormuz is approximately 33 kilometers wide and handles 20% of the world's oil supply. However, the Strait of Malacca, situated between Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia, narrows down to a mere 3 kilometers in certain stretches. For nations like India and China, this tiny strip of water is an existential lifeline. Half of India's maritime trade flows through this corridor, while for China, that figure rises to nearly 70%. This dependency has created what experts call the Malacca Dilemma. The United States appears to be adopting a strategy where controlling these choke points provides ultimate leverage. By establishing a presence here, a superpower can effectively hold the off switch for an opponent's economy. This is a direct parallel to the current situation in the Middle East, where Iran has used the Strait of Hormuz to pressure Western powers. Currently, in the Strait of Hormuz, the US claims to have established a blockade to isolate Iran. In a move to prove this blockade ineffective, Iran recently deployed 6 ghost ships. These are vessels that turn off their identification transponders, mask their digital signatures, and slip through naval patrols undetected. By moving these ships successfully, Iran is sending a clear message that physical blockades are not as airtight as they appear on paper. This game of cat and mouse is exactly what the US aims to address by expanding its influence toward the Strait of Malacca. The shift in strategy became evident following a major defense cooperation agreement between the US and Indonesia. While officially framed as a partnership for military modernization, the strategic reality involves gaining operational access to Indonesian maritime zones and airspace. By placing assets at the mouth of the Malacca Strait, the U.S. gains the ability to monitor and potentially restrict the flow of goods to China. This ties directly into recent shifts in American diplomacy. While President Trump previously threatened China with massive tariffs, his more recent conciliatory tone suggests a pivot toward physical leverage. By controlling the gateway through which China receives its energy and exports its goods, the need for a traditional trade war diminishes in favor of total maritime control. We are witnessing a transition from traditional border conflicts to a sophisticated era of economic maritime warfare. When tensions flared in the Strait of Hormuz, the ripples were felt in fuel prices across the globe, from the US to the streets of India. However, if the Strait of Malacca, a route much narrower and significantly busier, becomes a point of active conflict, the global supply chain faces the risk of a total collapse. As nations move their naval assets and sign new defense pacts, the Strait strategy is becoming the defining factor in who will dictate the terms of global trade and security in the coming years.